Hello, everybody, and welcome back to End Zone to End Zone, our marching arts podcast. Today, you've got Dan Twiford and
Gwaltney.
This is going to be a really fun episode today because we are sitting in the fan seat. We'll see if that name sticks for the series, but at least for now,
it's good for today.
We're kicking it around. We'll see if it has staying power. But the fan seat, we're going to be doing some reaction to A-class, Scholastic A-class, drum lines, and just get to enjoy it and talk about what we think works. These are going to be from previous years, so fully produced championship performances, and it's going to be a lot of fun to kind of celebrate the work that the kids have done, the way it's all put together. And I mean, for our jobs, we're helping to put together marching band shows and indoor shows, so it's kind of fun to see what somebody else did. And
and for me, it's like we could give a lot of added value to people to be like, hey, this is how this is constructed, why it generated the effect that it did, and why it works in their show, you know. So let's get to it.
Sweet. So we're going to kick it off with last year's Scholastic A champion for WGI in Dayton. This was Springford High School, which I'm also proud to say is my alma mater. I haven't been in that area for a long time, but
you went to high school here?
Get after it, guys.
Oh, yeah.
We weren't doing anything like that when I was there quite, but the foundation was laid.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
That's right. That's right. Well, way to go, guys. All right, let's check it out.
I think the first thing out of the gate that I would say is a very striking set design. It's got really cool props that we're able to use, which creates a really cool playground for the design team and the members to perform on.
I like that the visual responsibilities all around the floor are like thematic, but not incredibly challenging, just...
Well, they're providing you with those second and third layers that may not necessarily require multiple people to be clean, but you can get a lot of bang for your buck out of using just one person as a character, you know, which is really awesome. Again, utilizing the props like that. That is all these little skill sets that they're doing aside from the playing and the set design allows them to kind of like touch on the open class skill sets with the environments that they're in, which is really rad. But the groups that are successful in the A and open class are always showing attributes from the class above them, but their show isn't necessarily developed around that. They're just showing you like little bits and pieces of it.
So, hey, Derek, could you pause it for a second there? So, what I really appreciated just in that first opening minute and a half of this, and I know we missed like the very start of the momentum and everything, but it was like very clear focuses of ideas, and the second and third layers, like you were talking about, were like, you know, small visual responsibilities for those members. It wasn't necessarily like super heavy arrangement where each player is responsible for listening to and blending with 20 other parts.
Or it's a huge choreographed moment where you got to line up 15 or 16 or more kids and trying to get clean. You can create that character development with using individual people, and it fills up your court that way. You know, it's really cool.
Right. And even without, you know, a show title right on the screen there or anything, I mean, the whole set kind of makes sense together. You can see, I mean, you know, we've got bridges, we've got a sunset, there's some amount of like journey vibes going on. You know, the energy of a traveler, I guess, you know, it's kind of cool. So
building
together. So yeah, and the flute soloist definitely plays into that too. You know,
that was actually pretty unique.
It was.
You know, didn't really think about that at first.
It's getting a little more popular, obviously, to incorporate winds as the years go on. But
I like the color because it's so easy nowadays just to do a synth sound.
Right.
But now you're giving an opportunity to another performer and a new sound, really.
Right.
It's good.
All right, we keep going. I like that I can legibly tell, I can hear the audio and I can hear the battery. You know, I can hear the electronics and the battery together.
Oh, it's very clear. And the one thing as everybody's watching this, you can notice the choices in vocabulary during their horizontal phrases are very thin and exposed and probably more textural than notes as far as like a lot of beef. And then they save their bigger moments for when they're all together. They can create that impact or exclamation point at the end. There's a really smart use of their assets they have. Yep, see building, I like that. Building bridges, bringing people together, right?
Oh, I like this little down moment that, draws you in. And there you go. That's the thing everyone will remember after you've seen all those groups.
Well, you're using the environment and the sound texture that you set the stage with, and now you're able to actually use that as a sound in your show so it feels connected and not, because too often groups will do stuff where it looks like they went out to a yard sale and found a bunch of stuff and brought it in. But this is all very relatable, very cool effect. Cool.
Yeah, give it up.
Cool impact with the Viz ensemble that helps create a coordinated effect. Then, of course, everybody sees after the impact, you always have about 10 seconds or so of transitional material afterwards, which allows for a visual transition to set up the next thing. What you don't want to do is have an impact and then immediately have another phrase come in. Now, that works sometimes if that's your transition.
Sure.
But to be able to cleanse the palette like that's always really good and pretty smart. I think it's a good use of textural vocabulary behind the vocals and the flute solo, which doesn't get in the way, which allows for this type of arrival when it does happen, which is good. And of course, they brought the bridges together. They got the lights in
on.
there to
as
connect
soon as
it
you
all.
have the two halves, you knew this moment was coming up, so natural that's the arrival,
Now, people will question, should this have been an open class? And I'm going to say no. It's definitely on the A-class spectrum as far as what the performers are doing, but they are showing elements of open class. But I think the biggest thing that they're showing is their set design and their skill set to put a package together, right? Which can be intimidating too for groups that are trying to get in what they call A-class, if that's fully developed, but that's competition. It is what it is, right? So,
but it's clever. Throughout the whole show, I just kept thinking, oh, that's clever. Oh, that's a nice way. Like, the snare drums had a little feature on the bridge that's rotating. But if you're that performer, all you have to do is squat and play your decrescendo roll in time. It's not like they were doing complicated body while they're drumming. Like, it was all just kind of clever choices.
It was, and while they had maybe the snare line playing, they had their second and third focuses out there. The individual banging on something with a hammer on the bridge, bringing it together. So they had ways to fill up the floor that didn't require the full ensemble always marching and playing somewhere, right?
Right.
They were really smart with how they chose their layers and their individuals and how they use the space, really. Because the cool thing is that everybody has the same playing fields. You have the same sandbox to play in. Like, what toys are you going to bring in that space, and what kind of cool environment are you able to set up? And most importantly, what kind of story can you tell with props that relates to everybody in the audience that can connect with your show?
Right.
Because you definitely don't want to spend a lot of time and energy and money and bringing stuff out there that nobody can relate to or communicate with, And
that was a super clear journey as far as the props and the set.
Great,
disjuncted pieces of stuff that you couldn't recognize.
Very smart,
the
very
bridge
clear.
will come together and does come together. It was really nice.
I will also, I didn't mention this, I mentioned it before we got on the video, but the fact that their pit was split is also another open class skill set that, and it also provides a better viewing through the center of the floor towards the visual thing that's going on behind it. So, Yeah, kudos to the design team and the members for sure.
Yeah.
For executing
Love
all that.
watching them all give it up too. Every section seemed like when it was their time to, pressure's on, you're in front of the big crowd, they all delivered, they did their part.
Yeah, and I do want to make note of that no matter what class you're in, everybody still has to perform. And the thing about this group is like they executed everything that they were doing, but you could tell that every performer was bought in and performing that. And that's an effect by itself. Like the believability aspect of it. So again, kudos to that program and the culture that they're building to have all the members to do that. So.
Right. All right. Next, we've got Centerville High School.
Heart of Glass.
Heart of Glass.
Presenting their program.
Cool. Centerville High School, a very storied program, several decades here.
Yeah.
So
talk about contribution to the activity.
Absolutely.
Yep, reflective heart on the prop right away, boom. Yeah, nice intro from the front. Again, the balance of electronics to battery is great. Enjoying it.
Yeah, and that whole moment where the beginning, where everybody was like really super soft, and you have everyone coming out, and you're isolating one moment, and then all of a sudden you have the bling, and all of a sudden everybody appears. Like that's an effect, right? And now we have the end of this moment where everybody's in full blast. Right out of the gate, there already seems to be they're playing some vocabulary.
For sure. In the battery especially, yeah. You're throwing some
For sure,
parallels
yeah. The batteries definitely, I feel, is pushing the vocabulary to be an open class a little bit more.
There's like 4 mallets, but inside mallets just...
That's perfect. It's great,
totally.
yeah.
Yep.
And I love this moment here. It's very isolated where you can really kind of depend on one player, again, to create a larger moment without having a lot of people involved that could create ticks for you or other things. And, of course, now you're able to start a cool add-on moment, which will then give us an exclamation point at the end of that longer phrase, and then brings focus back to our glass.
Hey, Derek, pause it real quick for us. So what I really like already about this, too, is, Heart of Glass is the name of a pop song. A lot of the parents in the audience, all season long, even at the local shows, understand what's going on. And just right out of the gate, you're getting all these awesome visual affirmations and thematic affirmations that you know what's going on. People like to feel smart.
Absolutely,
You know, so you see the reflective heart at the beginning. They're all being delicate. Like, oh, okay, the heart of glass. You're going to be delicate. But then the floor, you look at the floor, it's shattered glass everywhere.
So something's broken. Yes. Something's going to happen.
Yes. Right. And then I love the snares played their little feature on the really like ticky, part of the drum. Yeah, plexiglass section of the drum.
Yep.
So yeah, you're just getting all these
glass textures.
Right.
Yeah, which is again unique situation to where they created an environment, a world, and they're using everything they possibly can texturally, musically, to everything you can possibly do to coordinate with the idea of glass, right, and a heart. So very cool.
Yeah. All right, cool.
All right, Derek, hit play.
Right, just focus on ensemble playing in the front. That's just really nice.
Right, but if you also notice how they did the visual design, how that Z kind of folded in, created motivation for those props to move. That's how you can kind of hide mass and weight So you're not just focusing on one prop. You can actually watch the drill kind of bring it all in there together. And of course, it provided an opportunity to hide the battery, and now they can pull it apart with the fabric. So it's really all about the setup without giving you the magic trick away, right?
Sure, right. Then get some nice sleight of hand to set it up.
I love this. It creates a good framing for the story that you're trying to tell. Musically, it ends well, and it provides, again, the good framing for the characters and the fabric they want to pull out, because clearly something's getting ready to break, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's
right,
what's happening. I like how expressive the snares are.
Yeah, they're doing a really good
Like,
job.
even though they play a little bit more, I think, than probably an A-class group, in my opinion, would do there, but they are still handling the definition and the dynamics the way they need to be doing.
Yep.
It's good. There's nothing worse than watching a group try to not be able to play what they can do, right?
Yep.
Or not be able to play what they should be able to do because it's out of their hands. But this is all very well within their hands. They're doing a really good job.
Right. And this tempo's, kind of moving, they're definitely going, but again, they're handling it. I like that little body accentuation they threw in there. Right on time.
And again, the effective framing that they do to set up their isolated moments is very clear. The framing with the drill, set up with the music to make sure that all those vertical moments that keep you engaged with the story is all very clear. And kudos to them. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I love that the story was so clear in that, and the character acting was done really well. It definitely left you wanting even more. I mean, it was really well put together. Visually, I enjoyed it. All the elements kind of coming together.
Well, the elements with the fabric of the heart, right, and the glass, and clearly the breaking of it, and there was some friction in the
right.
So it was easy to kind of follow the storyline with that because they're able to use that along with the glass sounds, all the different textures and stuff they're able to use. So, so we've watched a couple shows now to where everybody picked the sandbox they wanted to play in, and they committed to that,
Right.
The colors, the texture, the personality, props, the characterization that they use in it. It's all good, yeah.
Right.
I'll say this, the aesthetic is really rad. I love the uniform concept, the colors, the texture on the floor. Now I'm just going to shut up and watch real quick.
That was a great tempo shift, kind of feel shift. Okay, they're muted behind the plexiglass.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very cool. So they're using the plexiglass as kind of muted, but you can still see them. So I want to know the story behind that, I think. But still, cool use of effects to be able to get the muted idea, and then we hear them when they come out from behind it.
Right.
Very cool.
Can we get a pause real quick? I just wanted to point out in all 3 of the shows that we've watched so far, I've really appreciated how much music they're getting out of eighth notes and double stroke rolls at reasonable tempos, and just like the front to back ensemble playing, you know, the front ensemble and battery together, kind of working together and understanding what their roles are. That's great, you know, just maturity to be instilling in players, regardless of how difficult the material is. Like, we're going to go on this musical journey together in this phrase. We're going to reach an impact moment here. And it seems like they've got really great control in all 3 of these groups, just doing.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I mean, you can play eighth notes just as dirty as a fast roll, you know, and I mean, we've all seen mature players not be able to play eighth notes very well together or musically,
right?
You know.
But they're convincing rock stars out there. I mean, they're rocking the house.
Oh no, absolutely,
100%.
I mean, buzz rolls are like some of the telltale signs of like how mature are you, regardless of the depth of the skill set you have. Because a buzz roll, you can be like, your hands just aren't quite there yet, because it sounds bad even as a buzz roll. I mean, this is a simple skill set,
right? And
I haven't really gotten that out of these groups. I feel like they're really mastering the basic skill set, and they're presenting it at a world-class level as far as like clarity goes, you know, but they are definitely performing the A-class skill sets where they should be. I think it's great.
Yeah, I love how much music's coming out of it, you know. All right, let's keep
and
going.
You know what? I want to say that real quick, because clarity is not just for world class. Clarity is still should go across all
just
levels.
Like in visual, a line's a line, a cover down's a cover down.
Yeah. Just because I said it's got world class clarity in A class doesn't mean they need to be in world class. It just means that they're achieving at the highest level, which is why they did well.
Right.
You know.
Yep.
I love the control in the performer here. Visual silence is always a good tool to use. The thing I really enjoy about this part is here, I think the keyboards really understand their purpose in the visual presentation here, not to be annoying and doing a lot of mallet changes or whatever, because when the visual stuff behind them is super calm, I really appreciate the fact that the front ensemble took on that personality and created visual calm also, and it didn't create a distraction from what was going on behind.
It's heightening, not taking away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Enhancement is great.
Yep. And they got the restage and the props and.
Again, being able to use one player, now you're adding on what seems to be a theme, right?
Yep.
So it is basically a nice little check box that you can do as skill sets go in your composition, you know.
I love how just relaxed and free they all seem out there, you know, like the multiple responsibilities, like it's no thing. It's really nice.
I like the use of space in the musical context. Oh, I love that. So they go in behind all this, and then where the pit's crescendoing and the battery should be supporting it, but they went away.
Perfectly handed off.
That was great. It was a very good, well-balanced effect. Loved it.
Yep, crowd loves it. I also love when they started that movement, the very first drill move, kind of reminded me of the action that's on the uniforms and the floor, that whole like horizontal blur. Like they, really nice, they brought that to life.
Basic rhythms, baby, love it. Still creating good music out of it.
Right, grooving, come on.
Yeah, and of course, when you're able to create just a variety of musical impact in here, I mean, they're hitting that check box.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what they're saying here. Here Nothing. There you go. Here we go. We're doing it.
Hear us. Nice.
Excellent. We hear you now. That's good. Yeah. It's always good when you can end the show with a good clean roll, you know.
You know what? And they had the right amount of. We've talked about this in the planning year show kind of stuff before, but like it was the right amount of projects, just the right amount of like, oh, this is going to be the tough spot. This is going to be that, you know, or at least that's how they made it look to us. You know?
And they had a couple spots in there where they set up the idea of not being able to hear, setting up a motif of a couple little moments, and they had the big moment where everybody went behind and was inside all the props, and it was like, oh yeah, now we get it. Then of course now you've got your your finale with the fabric dropping on those things where you couldn't hear, and now you can because it's telling you can hear.
Right, simple enough. You know? Again, the parents I'm sure dug it all season long. They got some music they knew. Obviously, the kids dug it. They're having the time of their life.
Great, very clear, very effective, and very well thought out and coordinated ideas and effects.
Yeah, kudos to all. Nailed it. All right, one more.
Sure.
All right, we'll time jump to the previous year. PSA Gold.
Looks like a sewing room
they got
set
sewing
up.
tables.
Looks very, very cool. The set design is very, very intriguing.
Made to measure. WGI Sport of the Arts.
Oh, big scissors. We're
Playful,
coming to cut you.
Yeah, immediately.
Schools.
Yep, love the uniforms. Plays in with the fabric and the, yep. Yes, indeed. Let's phrase some eighth notes. Play some dynamics.
Yeah, not only that, pause that for a second, Derek. Like that whole intro really created a cool musical background, really a soundtrack for the time period, the mood, the motion, like all this stuff. And if you notice if you get a chance to go back and watch this, you're going to see how they developed the characterization on the sewing machines, and then you had the mass of people come in, and as they're coming in, you hear the music crescendo up, and then when they hit the final form with everybody, it stops, right? So as drill writers, when you're out there trying to figure out like, what does this all mean? How do people do this? You follow the weight in the music and you figure out how to basically see what you hear what you see. And the way that this music is developed, they did that perfectly.
We're only a minute in. Why don't you restart it real quick and we can just enjoy that.
Because they had the horizontal phrase, which lasted a minute. And then they had the vertical moment, which was the arrival and the ending of the music. And you could hear and see all of that coming together in the last 10 seconds, and then it stops. And that's the kind of stuff that gives, the average person that visceral reaction because it feels good. It all connects right. When we all watch that movie and the soundtrack lines up right when this thing happens, that's what this is, and as producers and creators, you have to be able to do that kind of thing. And the drill writers that don't get it right are the ones that just do drill and counts everywhere, right? You want to make sure you're always trying to create some kind of cinematic moment. And yeah, it's okay to drill around every once in a while, but I mean, ultimately you have to try to make your horizontal phrases all vertical moments also. Whether they're 10 seconds or a minute long, you want to make sure that's one long thing that feels good to watch.
Yeah.
So let's watch it.
2023 program, Made to Measure. WGI Sport of the Arts is proud to present Irondale Combined Schools.
Yep, so they got character development here. Setting the tone. And you can't see it, but I think, they got that vertical file was actually over there on the left.
Yep, and they just split apart.
Yep,
And the scissors cut it apart.
Yep. And they're showing all the fabric that they got to measure, right? Made to measure. You can hear the momentum of the music, kind of creating a cool soundtrack, and really.
Right cymbal back there.
I just rhythmic motivation to move the phrase, and you can see the choreo in the back that matched some accents in the front ensemble and how they broke apart on a repetitive phrase, and now they arrived. There it is. Boom, vertical moment. Now we're moving on. Good stuff. The thing I like about this is, even though the snares are clearly the focus, there's still character development and that secondary idea that they're having with the SO team, right?
Right.
And it's cool because they create them as a prop. They're not just not doing anything. That's a whole SO room or SO team back there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm in the uniform business, so a SO room and a SO team comes across. It is. Yeah, I love the framing of the drill here and how it matches. Stop this for a second, Derek. Yeah, so back that up just a smidgen, and I think this is really important for people to see. Just where they were halted. Yeah, that's close enough. But you can see that the floor is printed a certain way, right? It's on 45-degree angles. And they chose to put the front ensemble in a certain block. Sorry, not the SO team in a certain quadrant of the floor that looks like it fit. It wasn't just thrown out there. It looked like there was thought process behind it, right? And then let's back up a little bit. So if they did this set with a bunch of curvilinear forms, it would not be effective, because every set that you do definitely has predetermined concepts that you have to adhere to, okay? And the fact that this has a lot of angles in it, we should see a lot of symmetry and angles and framing that's matching that, because if it didn't, it wouldn't feel good to look at, on that end of things. So, like, people don't necessarily know why that feels good to look at, but that's why. It's because all these angles are matching up.
There's a tension and release thing built into it, where every time they're not using the floor, it's kind of grinding.
You would notice it if it was wrong. Right, you would notice it if it was wrong. It would feel weird, but the fact that it feels right, it's like, yeah, duh, we move on. You know what I'm saying? So, but because of that, it's going to create that effect and aesthetic that everybody wants to see and hear, and it all lines up well. So it's good. It's a good job.
Again, overarching comment for all the groups we've watched, including this one, but just noticing all that drill they're doing. The step sizes were appropriately chosen, but the feet are in time. So, like, you can tell they're doing good visual training and marching basics and, getting it going on. Like,
absolutely. I mean,
that makes a huge difference.
It does. And then, but I think this is a really good textbook example of when you pick a floor and a set design, like, that is yours for the season. And people sometimes like to think it's like, oh, it's a pretty picture, it's an image I can march on. It's like, no, that's going to dictate your style and imagery and what you do. That's why some groups will do like an ombre, just something that's unobstructive to the view that makes you have to attach other images to a preset angle or something like that. So that's why people, when they choose those kind of like, blah floor is the wrong thing, but just something that's just like doesn't have a lot of hard lines in it, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But this right here clearly does, and you can see that they're taking advantage of that and making sure that they're adhering to all the design principles in there. I think it's good.
Yep.
So. Again, see the same set where they decided to follow those same angles on the floor. Now imagine if they did a big circle set right there. It would just feel funky, I'm not saying they can't do that, but like for that particular
won't
moment.
hit as hard.
Yeah. See, sometimes moments like this, I would like to look at it from the overall view so that I can see what that visual ripple set up, which was clearly setting up the bases, right? So when the cymbals did a visual ripple, sometimes you can't really see in these viewpoints, but if you're in an overhead view, you would be able to see that cymbal line is finishing that phrase with a ripple that directs you towards the next focus.
Right.
Same thing with the basses. Here they go. They just rippled back towards the next focus, which is
Pushing
the
you
quads.
over towards the quads. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's good visual design.
And again, that's not a drill thing. That's more of a secondary choreo layer thing that helps direct stuff. But the visual has to be set up for that to happen, but it doesn't stop there is what I'm saying.
Right.
So now they're in their horizontal phrase, right, where they're trying to get to their next vertical moment. And they're using this as a transition so they can put people on the sew tables and move them. Now we're probably getting ready to watch a vertical moment happen. And there it was. That was the resolve of that phrase. Now they're set to the next thing. So as the design team built this, they used that phrase to really set this up. And that phrase actually looked really good while they were doing it. They weren't just like pushing a prop for utility purposes, right?
Yeah. Also, at the beginning of the show, they were using a lot of the gold fabrics in the corner. Now they've got all these colors out. I like that they've like kind of changed it up, and they didn't use it the whole time either. They gave you a break. Okay, fun. A sweater song for a fabric show. It's great.
Of course it is.
The last song was Details in the Fabric too, so they kind of played into it.
I'm wearing a sweater too.
You know the slapstick kids.
The slapstick with the
come on, scissor slapstick.
Scissors. It's good. And again, the framing of the floor is still angular, right?
I liked how the visual overall impact during that rock and roll moment was a little bit more raw too. You know, like they're getting loose. I like that. And you get the little 5-stroke roll, which is like a little more okay on the hands, like let's go. But they're halted for that. And then when you want to create the big visual motion and a whole lot of, energy on the floor visually, they're playing like
something simple that just generates effect. And yeah, let's stop that for a second, Derek. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because what they did was, instead of playing hard notes while they weren't marching, they chose to create energy in the feet and lighten the skill set in the hands.
Yep.
So what they did was they triaged that performer's skill set needs over that time to generate that effect. Because what they didn't want to do is now have fast feet and then now have to train kids that are in the A-class level to try to have to do all that too on top of it.
Right.
This is a different skill set. That's an open class skill set, right? And in the world class skill set. So the fact that they were able to kind of triage that moment and use their assets for that moment and kick it back a notch on that playing so they can kick it up a notch in the feet.
Yep.
And that way they still kept it within their world. And I think it was really smart.
You can tell there were thoughtful
very
design
thoughtful,
considerations when it comes to that. Like, what's going to be the total output per kid? I can only do this much visual, this much music, and balance it all out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I think all 4 of those shows, we'd have to say, were successful products. Obviously,
great, yeah.
medaling in A is super hard.
It's extremely hard. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot to learn fundamentally from those groups. And I like to do a lot more of these videos because I think, for me to see this kind of stuff more often, and to be able to kind of dissect and deconstruct that for, I think, some of up and coming designers that want to know why it works, or maybe even like why they're getting beat.
Sure.
Because that was something that, you go through when you're younger. It's like, I'm putting all my heart and soul into this and we're doing so much. Why is this other group? Oh, they're doing it because I got good looking props.
Right.
No. Maybe. Yes,
There's a lot of things. Those groups are making it look easy because of experience. Like, mentioning that the electronics to, music ensemble balance was fantastic. That's not easy to pull off right away unless you're trained and kind of have somebody who can help you out.
Ears are a thing.
Yeah.
And not necessarily everybody has the same set of ears that maybe the designer or the person running rehearsal has. So, maybe in rehearsal, you have that person who has those magic set of ears that knows exactly what it needs to be that gets you to that point. Maybe you've got somebody on your team that understands angle and space and stuff like that and knows how to use it. I'll say this, when I was first starting doing drill, long time ago, I was able to get into it and do it quicker than most because our family was in the sign business. So when we're growing up, I'm looking at 4x8 signs my whole life. I'm looking at business cards. I'm looking at things that are already laid out like a chord, and I'm looking at weight and balance and how things are supposed to be correct, right? And then when I started staging, it was like inherent. It's like, I know this doesn't look right. The weight's not right. You know what I'm saying? So there's certain things outside of the band world that you can take and learn from because the design principles are the same, especially when you're talking about framing and how to generate motion and effect and stuff like that. Like it's all around us. Mm-hmm. It's just like, what can we take those principles and apply it to our activity, and people will get more successful more quicker,
Right.
But yeah, no, I think all that stuff's really good. But
yeah, I mean, just off the top of my head, other things that those groups did well that maybe we didn't call out. I mean, the instrument tuning in the battery was really well chosen. I mean, this last group in particular, I think had the most exposed tuning, but like they handled it, so we weren't questioning it. If you were that exposed and your group wasn't playing at that level, I think you'd be hearing it from the judging panel, just like, hey, I don't know if you need to get those all the way up there like that, But I mean, right out of the gate, I was like, oh, okay, crispy snares, and they're playing together, and the quads came out, same deal. But yeah, I thought all of those were like thoughtfully done. Obviously, people putting time and love into preparing all that, and
and I'm glad you brought that up because the tuning and how that's put together, that's not a performer thing. That's a staff skill set thing, and that's still part of classification. It doesn't matter what class you're in, you still have to have good sounding instruments. Just because you're in the introduction, supposedly class, this is not introduction anymore, but if it was an introductory class, like you don't want to come in there playing on drums that haven't been tuned in 3 years, right?
Right.
Like that's a skill set that's kind of like, I'm not going to say a barrier or a gatekeeper to success, but it is, no matter what level you're in.
Everybody could get a little bit better at it though, and just invest. If you're at the level of changing your heads every other year, and there's that one guy who comes into school every now and then, and then invest yourself a little bit more. It can be you. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, I think it's just always benefits to look at another program and see like, oh, I liked that. What did they do? So. It's just
besides beat you,
right?
I mean, like if
how
if you have to be able to analyze that type of thing and
take the emotion out of it.
Yeah, and that's my favorite thing to do now is just watch our competitors and be like, oh, they're doing X, Y, and Z. I like that. Why did that work for them? Oh, okay, I get it. You know what I'm saying? But if you can't analyze that stuff, then you're just frustrated.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think it's really good that if people are designing, that they're deconstructing other people's shows and understanding why that soup tasted good.
Right.
Because the ingredients they put in it. And like cases like this, the ingredients are the floor, how their uniforms look on top of it, how they move the drill to the shapes that are on the floor so that it looks aesthetically correct and comfy, to the type of cool props they do. They did something very easy and easily to gravitate towards. Everybody's seen a sewing machine, so like their level of communication to the audience was already at the highest of levels.
Sure. Because
they didn't have to like show them some esoteric show and kind of, wow them with other things that didn't matter.
Yep.
They showed you what it was, and it was an interesting presentation. It wasn't on the nose layman with the floor per se. You know what I'm saying? Well, so I thought it was very creative.
For all four of them, you can easily say what the and factor was. Like, Springford, they had the bridge and those pipes they drummed on. Centerville, they had those amazing heart props and the fabric that came out and the shattered and that juxtaposition. Greenfield, they had those cool plexiglass props that they got muted behind and then had the fabric at the end. Irondale, they had the sewing machines and the giant
scissors. Every one of them had an and effect. So that should be the lesson to everybody, is that we just watched 4 successful groups in A class for the past couple years, and they all had very strong ands. So.
Yep, I'm sure, and who knows what the price tag was versus the bridge versus the scissors, but nonetheless, the point isn't the money you spend; it's that you took the time to think about what's going to stick.
Yeah, and Group's and could be a small little light that's in your hand. It's like $4 off of Amazon. It doesn't.
Yep.
It doesn't necessarily need to be something you spend a lot of money on with the bridge. So good point on that. But it is definitely like what you have and what you're doing with it. That creates that effect. But.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, presenting their program, Dandelion from St. Paul, Minnesota.
Okay.
Please welcome
13th
Minnesota
place
Press Indoor.
Independent World from 2013. However, we talk about this show regularly.
You may take the floor in
staying power.
It does, and the reason why I wanted to bring this up and do a react to it is because this show particularly inspired me to be less stuffy about indoor percussion, even though I did staging for Father Ryan for a bunch of years. This show particularly made me realize, especially in world class, that it can be fun.
Yeah.
And it's been great. But I think it's worthy of watching because of the character of the dandelion and the weed killer.
Right. If you haven't seen this, and this is somehow your intro to this show, you're welcome. It's great.
I like the cymbals just popping up and just doing like a quick crash choke and then popping right back down.
Yep.
It's just doesn't really mean anything in the world of dandelions. It was just a neat little texture. Basically, they were hiding them and now they're not. Yep, and then you got a cool little coordinated moment where they're smashing down probably grass or something or weeds. I don't know, but I like the motif.
They're not too exposed. Yep, caught their stuff. Love that.
I like the exposure. I like how that just all of a sudden the snare line appeared from all that motion. Good clarity of focus. And
obviously lighthearted, like the whole energy.
It is, but exactly. But what I like is they really find moments of motion, and they match the visual to that pretty clearly to what's going on. And between that and the characterization they have, I thought really worked.
Yep.
And the fact that it's green on green on green, and then them sweet yellow hairs, like the dandelion part, like come on.
It's now time to play Know Your Dandelion.
I feel like I learned something too.
Sherricum is a large genus of flowering plants. Eurasia and North America.
I love it. This reminds me of like people sitting around, like we all do at a party. We're like, let's get nutty with a show. And somebody goes, let's do a dandelion show. And then everybody's like, nah. And everybody's like, oh yeah, it's great. And then next thing you know, it comes, that's how creativity works, right?
It's the commitment.
It is. It has to do with the commitment. Like once you buy into something, you just commit. And I think the enjoyment for me was the commitment to this.
Fan favorite is.
Oh, they definitely won the Disney Award, right?
Fan favorite, yeah. But I'm sure before they got their uniforms in, before they got their floor in, when it was just the staff pitched the show to the members.
Can't remember. I would like to have been in the room.
That's a lot of trust. That's a lot of trust. Yeah. Yeah, flowers do that.
Yeah.
Dandelions do that.
They're trying to grow, but they're not.
And weeds must be destroyed.
Oh, here we go. This is when it really gets lit.
Here comes the weed killer.
Yeah.
It's a ninja.
One of the all-time. I hope whoever's pushing that prop didn't have to pay dues.
You know they did.
They did.
Full dues.
But
Probably drove the bus too.
contribution-wise, legendary.
It's unfortunate, the weed killer's killing all the dandelions too,
I think
Is a dandelion a
they're
weed?
technically a weed. They're
That's
just
the issue,
among
right?
the most beautiful weeds.
It's a
that
beautiful
there
weed,
are,
and now they're
but-
dead because we brought out the weed
weed
killer
killer.
stuff. Sad. Is this the part where they get to go into the dirt and then regenerate themselves as like their own fertilizer, then they grow back again? Or maybe not. Oh,
Sounds right. Oh,
or heaven. Is that it goes to heaven?
or the white. When dandelions get old, the spores.
Yeah, whenever
So,
there you go.
we're
That
on a
was the
full journey.
Yeah.
Yep.
Why don't you see more
Now this is the next
spores?
spring. Maybe this is you just got the one spore, and now this is next.
Oh, this is where
I don't know.
everybody's allergies kick in. This is where everybody starts sneezing.
They broke us down. They're gonna build us back up.
If they don't start sneezing here, I'm gonna be mad. I can't remember.
That's for the audience to do. The audience is sneezing like crazy.
There you go.
Yep.
And them dandelions be playing some diddles.
Yep. Diddling and dancing around. So if you've never been to finals and seen all the groups in a row, especially if you're there from Scholastic all the way through Independent, it's just so many shows, right? Even finals night, you're watching 30 shows to the face.
Different types of shows.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
So there's going to be shows that come out and are so serious and heavy, and ones that are trying to, give you their college thesis, and all of the above. So
And this group just had their whole show was the and effect.
he's got
The weed eater.
a weed whacker, yeah.
Is it a weed whacker or a weed eater?
In up north where I'm from, it was a weed,
Weed whacker,
I don't know. You say tomato.
It's a weed eater down here.
Yeah. Oh, and all the heads are off of then.
I guess that makes sense.
Nailed it.
What is that? Is that supposed to be like the sun?
That's a flower. That's like a
Minnesota.
Oh,
Press
the flower
indoor
is
from St.
mad
Paul,
because the
Minnesota.
dandelions or
Right.
weeds are coming up
Direction of
around
Vic
them.
Marino.
That's right. Yep.
Got it.
Leave me some elbow room. I'm the flower. I need my elbow room. Yep.
Got it. So I'm gonna kill all you weeds.
Right. I assume a flower from the Teletubby verse or something like that, but well received. And for everybody, again, when you got told that that's your show for the year, haven't seen a costume yet, and you just well done. Just way to commit.
Yeah. Because I think it goes a lot for the members and trusting the staff and stuff like that. Because
Yep.
I can tell you at Mystique, if I would have came out and said that, like it would have been because of the style that we do, the members would have been like, "That's not what we signed up for."
No.
But it would have been like, "Well, that's what I signed up for. So that's
right.
what we're doing." But yeah, no,
It's different.
there's a brand that
There's
you
a
kind
brand.
of stuck with, and it's hard to. Now,
Right.
granted, I feel like over the years we've done a decent job of like zigging and zagging and trying to stretch this out so we're not doing the same thing every year.
Correct. Yeah.
Which is hard to do when you have the same design team for almost 30 years. It's like we think away, and
Right.
which kind of makes the branding right for every group that has a design team that's been there for a while. Like all the
Sure.
top groups have those people that have been there for a while because consistency is part of the brand.
Right.
And
But you're not going to suddenly do Monty Python Does Drumline
no
unless you were really like so moved.
right. Guys, hear me out.
Right. Well, we can all look forward to that.
You guys seen the rabbit scene in the Holy Grail? It's great. It's going to be the end of the show,
Yep.
But no,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. I'll say that for another group though that's got that kind of personality.
That's right.
for
Yep.
sure. Doesn't mean it can't be done. It's
If that needs to be you, if you're thinking my group needs to be, give us a call.
yeah, we'll have like a night out there
in
with
there.
the arms off and talking about
Right? It's just a flesh wound.
it is just a flesh wound.
That's right.
So
Yep.
I mean, there's room for it.
Yep.
Clearly, we can do that.
That's right. I would say that we're pretty well inspired by checking out those shows. It was very cool. Again, big kudos to the staffs, performers, and designers who put all those together. None of those were our programs, so we were just sitting here in the fan seat.
Yeah, we know some of the people I think that wrote
People are
these
saying
shows.
it.
Yeah,
People are saying it. Cool. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time on End Zone to End Zone.
See you.